Here's the problem. All agnostics are wrong, but I kind of relate to them. Let's talk about it. So if you clicked on this title, you know that I don't agree with agnostics and that I think they're all wrong, even if they're right. So what do I mean by that? So let's start by defining a little bit what I mean by agnostic. An agnostic, in the way that I'm going to be talking about it in this video, is somebody that looks at the evidence for and against the existence of God or gods and says, there's not enough information, and therefore I withhold judgment. They are agnostic, meaning they are a knowledge. Gnostic meaning knowledge, and just like atheist, there is no knowledge. So I don't have the knowledge to make a decision, therefore I withhold judgment. I take the evidence to its farthest limits, and I believe the evidence to its farthest limits, but I don't go past that. You may even call them someone that doesn't use faith in the classical term meaning faith. Like I did a video a few days ago talking about everyone needs to take a leap of faith. A agnostic would say, I'm not going to. But that seems like a reasonable claim. I'm going to follow evidence, and I'm not going to believe something that's not shown by evidence. Like, that can't be wrong, right? Well, in talking about the existence of God, there's only two answers. Either there is a God, or there is no God or gods. That is an exhaustive list, meaning it is one of these two answers. There is no third option to say, ding, 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 you were correct. The answer was, I don't know, and therefore you're right. And so even if you have all the reason in the world to say, hey, there wasn't enough evidence to come to a proper conclusion, so I just didn't choose, you're still wrong. You still didn't choose the correct answer. Let's say there is a God or gods. I didn't believe that they existed, therefore I'm wrong. Or let's say there is no God or gods. I didn't believe there was no God or gods, therefore I'm also wrong. So even if the agnostic is correct, and by correct I mean they looked at the evidence, saw that neither one had enough evidence to justifiably prove that it was true or have enough evidence to show that it was real, and therefore they withheld judgment. In that, let's say they were right to do that because there wasn't enough evidence. By definition, the agnostic is wrong on the question of, is God or gods real? But then why are there so many agnostics if by definition it's wrong? And why would I say something along the lines of, I kind of agree with agnostics, when I know and would make a video that they are wrong? Well, I'm somebody that hates the idea of looking at evidence and saying it got me, let's say, 60% of the way to a conclusion and not being able to find any other evidence and just saying, I'm just going to jump to 10 out of 10. Like that's my decision. I hate that idea. And an agnostic would say, I hate that idea, so I'm just not going to choose. And in this search for God's existence, I think both sides, again, like I've said many times, have plausible arguments and evidence showing that their position is true. Let's say one side, like the atheist side, was like, look, I can somehow prove in this device it can create universes out of something, and therefore out of nothing, actually, and therefore the universe could have come into being. Look, there didn't need to be a God, it just needed blank. And they could somehow prove hypothetically that God didn't exist. Or the theist said, hey, no, I have proof that there is a God, and God ripped open the skies and said, hey, everybody, I'm God. There would be no room to say, well, there's just not enough evidence, therefore I'm just not going to choose. You would have to say, yes, I agree that that is proof, and now I have to say I either agree with this proof or extremely high set, bar of evidence, or I'm just going to reject it knowing that I'm wrong and live with the consequences. Unfortunately, that's not reality. Reality has, let's say, two good bridges trying to, get over this cavern of ignorance to the other side, which is the answer to the question, do gods or God exist? Unfortunately, neither bridge gets there. And so we're left with this seemingly impossible decision to just walk to the end and just leap off and hope that you guessed right, or that your evidence was correct, or that your viewpoint was right. The agnostic just says, I'm just not even going to get on the bridge. I'm going to stay on this side and just watch you guys jump off these bridges, and I'm just not going to choose because I'm not convinced that there's enough evidence to show that one is correct and the other is wrong. And so whereas I do believe that all agnostics are by definition wrong, they're kind of right also. Like, that's a completely reasonable decision to make. There's not enough evidence, therefore I'm not going to leap off an intellectual bridge. However, like I said, they're also definitionally wrong. And in the case of a religious God or a Christian God, like my religious upbringing, there's big consequences. And so to the agnostic / atheist that say, well, to the Christian or Muslim or Hindu God or gods, I am actually atheist. I do not believe. I believe they do not exist, but I'm agnostic to undescribed gods. I think that's a slightly better position than just agnostic towards everything. However, you're still wrong about the answer because, again, out of an A or B set of answers, you chose C. By definition, you can't be right, even if you were justified in picking C. And so should you be an agnostic? That's your decision, but you're wrong. And maybe it feels better, though, because you know that intellectually, maybe you're right. And I know this kind of sounds weird going back and forth like that, but I think agnosticism on its face seems like a good, just safe zone socially. Like, oh, I'm not saying that your God can't be right. Maybe your God is right. I'm just not convinced. And that's just okay to say and to believe and to tell people that are religious or atheist. But in reality, although it seems kind of like this middle ground between all the different worldviews, it's actually like a very extreme position. You're left needing to prove so much about the world that most of us just take for granted. You're not a skeptic, but you're definitely on the road to becoming one. And that's a very challenging place to be. So will I become an agnostic? I hope not, but maybe. I don't know. The evidence is convincing on both sides or not convincing on both sides, and that just doesn't sit right with me. And I know for many of you, you feel similarly. So what do you think about agnosticism? Do you think it's a better position to just not choose if there's not enough evidence, or do you think you should take the evidence to its farthest limits and then leap and hope that you're right? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you like this type of content, I encourage you to subscribe. And if you like this video, please hit the like and maybe turn on that bell notification so that when I upload more videos, you can get notified. And last but not least, this has been day 20 of the Hopeful Skeptic Coffee Chat. And in this series, I've been taking a different question every day and just responding off the cuff. And I wanted just to let the people know that have been watching, thank you very much. But also going forward, I'm going to start releasing some short form content as well as more prepared videos. So look for maybe an upload about once a week instead of 7 times a week. Hopefully that will give me enough time to script some things out, get my thoughts down on paper, and then present them in hopefully a better way, or at least in an easier to follow way. But I've really enjoyed these last 20 days of kind of just shooting the breeze with people and hopefully starting some good conversations in the comments, which I've seen and I really appreciate the dialogues. So as always, I'm Jonathan, the Hopeful Skeptic. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.